Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Utah heading into the Big 12, getting a lot of national media buzz as kind of being the front runners in this Big 12 conference until diving into the 2023 season, looking what they have coming back in 2024. You're not going to find many arguments from me. This is one of those teams that I look at and say, they're just checking so many boxes. Heading into 2024, I fully trust Kyle Whittingham as really just being one of the best coaches in all of college football. You make no mistake about it. This Utah team is extremely dangerous heading into 2024. Obviously, getting Cam Rising back. Want to take a look at this depth chart and kind of project how this Utah team does in the 2024 season and to take a look at the schedule. Before we do, and as always, these season previews are always my favorite episodes to do because we learn from you guys in the comments section. There's always a few names that you guys drop that I add to the notebook and sure enough break out in the college football season. For the Utah fans, if we're sleeping on anybody, throw it in the comments section. We'll add it to the notebook. And if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. This Utah team previewing games in 2024, it's going to be a blast. And without further ado, let's get into this one. You got to start with the big storyline, Cam Rising coming back. And we don't have to talk about Cam Rising that much because we know what he brings to this Utah team. One, he's a winner. And whenever he's playing for Utah, they're winning conference championships. I think more importantly, seventh-year quarterbacks. You look across college football with some of these super experienced quarterbacks, they always seem to hit their stride towards the tail end of their career. They've just seen a ton of football, right? Michael Penix, Bo Nix. I have a ton of faith that Cam Rising just puts together, another phenomenal season because of all that experience that he has under his belt. Now, I think the fascinating storyline for this Utah offense, and I was kind of doing some prep over the last couple of days, is this the most talented pass catcher unit that Utah's had in at least 5 years? I think that's what has me fired up the most about this Utah team.
I think that's kind of what I'm looking for because Cam Rising's had to do a lot with a little in a lot of cases at Utah, and he's had some good tight ends obviously come through that program. Obviously, our Bills guy, Dalton Kincaid, but he really hasn't had those elite guys on the edge. So you're kind of looking, I think this Utah offense is a really good chance to be more explosive than what you've seen. And you've seen Cam Rising kind of will this team down the field consistently, does a lot with his legs, just kind of grinding plays out and making it happen. But can this look a little bit more like aesthetically pleasing, if you will, with the fact that they're having some wideouts come in a room that I think is really pretty well constructed, where you have Money Parks, a guy who really does a pretty good job working out of the slot. You have a guy in Micah Pittman who, when he gets the ball in his hands, does a really good job creating things. And then you have a guy in Dorian Singer that I don't think you've had. It's just a really good, pure route running wide receiver to work that boundary. I really like the way this Utah offense is shaking up, and that's not even including the tight end spot.
And again, the tight end spot, I think it's an embarrassment of riches in that tight end position, and we know Utah is going to run a lot of two tight end sets, get these tight ends active in this offense, and we've seen Utah just put out some phenomenal tight ends in the college football landscape. But I look at Utah kind of similar to us as Michigan fans looking at this offense and saying, can you get some more of those explosive playmakers in the passing attack a little bit more involved? And I think you kind of summed up how I feel. I look at this wide receiver room and say, not only is there a lot of talent in the wide receiver room, there's a lot of guys that do different kind of things. And we talk about it all the time. You want a wide receiver room kind of to resemble a basketball team in terms of having wide receivers that thrive doing different things. Money Parks, Micah Pittman, separators, yards after the catch. Dorian Singer might be one of, if not the most talented wide receiver that Utah has had in quite a while. Then you're bringing Damian Alford from Syracuse, 6'6", 215 pounds, matchup nightmare that averages 19.3 yards per catch. You talk about Utah finding some more explosiveness in the passing attack. That's a guy that's just going to work vertically down the field. And then Trayshawn Lyons, sub 10 second in the 100-meter coming over from Washington. So many different guys that do different things in this Utah pass catcher room. And I think the last thing I want to talk about before we get to the star of the show, and that's going to be the defensive side of the football, the offensive line. Something that stands out to me, and I think this might be the first team preview we've done where there's not a single transfer portal addition on the offensive line. What does that tell you about Kyle Whittingham and how he sees this offensive line? They're feeling pretty damn good. And so you think the personnel is there, but I think more importantly, the continuity. We talk about a lot of offensive lines that are bringing in 3 to 4 transfers. How well are those units going to mesh and play as one in the 2024 season for Utah? And all of these guys have played football together, have been in this system. That's probably what makes me so optimistic about the Utah offensive line. I trust Kyle Whittingham to put out good line of scrimmage play. I am pretty high on what this Utah offensive line can be heading into 2024 with all that continuity that's coming back heading into the fall.
And the big thing will be the tackles. And this is probably the most talented tandem we've ever seen at Utah. These guys were like kind of recruits you don't always see Utah win with. And Utah does a really good job doing what they do, developing some of the lower ranked overlooked guys and making them really good. And that's kind of frankly what their interior is looking like. But you have a guy in Caleb Lomu and Spencer Fanu who got a lot of action, obviously, as a freshman. I'm really interested to see what those guys, because those are 2 NFL talents. And then, again, you don't always get to say that about Utah offensive tackles. So, again, you have that experienced, veteran, older unit in the interior. Can those tackles kind of take those steps? And because that was obviously a position of weakness. I don't think that was a great playing unit last year. But, again, 2 guys who are only true freshmen, obviously Fanu having a lot more experience. If those 2 play really well, this will be one of those more classic Utah offensive lines, and that's going to be a big thing because when Utah's offensive lines are playing really good, they're a handful to deal with.
And then you couple it with a quarterback like Cam Rising. Now, a note on Spencer Fanu, I think got some unfair heat early in the season. Like, this kid was a true freshman going up against some really good edge rushers in the Pac-12. Dill, his last 7 games for Utah as a true freshman, only 5 quarterback hurries. Like, you saw this kid, and again, the growing pains at the offensive tackle spot for a true freshman, that is to be expected. He got better towards the end of that 2023 season. That's what fires me up the most about Spencer Fanu. Obviously expected to kick over to that right side. I believe that's what he played in the bowl game against Northwestern. I think there's a lot of reason to be high on this Utah offensive line. And you go to the defense, this shouldn't come as much of a surprise. I think comfortably the best defense in the Big 12. You go back to last year, you think about all the talented quarterbacks and passing on, really just offenses that we saw in the Pac-12. Utah nationally, 20.3 points per game allowed. That was 20th in the country. 3.1 yards per carry. That was 8th in the country. This Utah defense that was playing opposite an offense that really just struggled to do them any favors was a very, very good unit in the 2023 season.
Yeah, and you're going to come back with a really experienced and loaded interior defensive line. I mean, Junior Tufanu and Keanu Tunavasa are so good, especially Tunavasa. I think he's incredible. Just the way he makes plays and is so disruptive, getting into the backfield. Love his game. I think the question is like, can Connor O'Toole, Logan Fanu recover from that injury? Can Van Fillinger? I think that's kind of the unit, frankly, that you're looking on that defensive line. Like, can we kind of get back to what we were with Connor O'Toole as a true sophomore before the injury? Some of those moments you saw from them, and can he kind of raise that game up in replace, frankly, what they're obviously losing with Ellis?
Jonah Ellis was the guy in that pass rush. I think you're looking for just more guys stepping up in that Utah pass rush because Jonah Ellis was a freak show when he was healthy for Utah in 2023. Though the big thing I have in my notes on this defensive line, the depth. I mean, how many Big 12 teams can just match the amount of capable bodies that Utah has on both sides of the line of scrimmage? The answer is not many, if any. And then you look at the linebacker room, Landon Barton, at least in my mind, one of the best linebackers, not only in the Big 12, but in the country. You look at the secondary, you have to replace 2 just all-star safeties. Obviously, Cole Bishop, another Buffalo Bills guy. I love the Buffalo Bills just grabbing Utah Utes. So I think that's going to pan out for our Buffalo Bills. You look at the Utah secondary, there's some guys that excite you. I think they made some sneaky good additions in the transfer portal as well. Cameron Calhoun coming from Michigan, another guy that we liked as a young player from Michigan. I think you sum up this Utah defense kind of similarly to how we started with this Utah team. Boxes are being checked all along this Utah defense.
Because I know they lose good guys in the secondary, but again, you're returning Zamiah Vaughn's such a good cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Johnson's such a unique, versatile guy, can play the nickel, can play out in the back. So again, gives them some positional versatility. And then I think Stone Smith's going to have a great year. I think you kind of what exactly you want in the nickel, that short area quickness, the ability to stay with guys and cover and man, in man and then being able to be physical and tackling guys as only a true freshman. I'm really excited to see him because I thought in that Northwestern Bowl game he looked really good.
Yeah, I think what excites you about Utah is that you don't normally see Utah play a ton of young cats because it's a developmental program. They want guys 4 or 5 years in the system. You saw Utah have to lean on some young cats in 2023. That's only going to make them better football players in 2024. Dill, you get into the schedule. It's a gettable schedule, and I think we are both on the same page that we see Utah and Kansas State as probably the two best teams in the Big 12. Utah does not have to play Kansas State in the 2024 season. You start looking at this schedule, Southern Utah, Baylor at home, on the road at Utah State. You feel pretty good about them starting 3-0, going on the road to Boone Pickett Stadium against an Oklahoma State team that I've been kind of vocal. I'm not saying Oklahoma State's bad. It is hard to go to Stillwater and win football games. That being said, I think they're a little bit overrated, according to the national media. If they can win that game, hosting Arizona the next Saturday at home, Rice-Eccles Stadium, you have your two hardest games in the first 5. I think Utah's chances of starting 5-0 going into that bye week pretty dang high.
And Utah actually matches up really well with Arizona. And Arizona is a team that's certainly going to present a lot of teams problems because they're going to be able to score a fair amount. But I think I like Utah. I think it's going to be a handful to deal with on the ground for Arizona. And just the overall physicality that Utah is going to bring that no one else in the Big 12 can really – I don't think they're going to bring it that way. So, again, like Arizona scares teams because if you can't bully them off the spot, they're going to score. But, again, Utah, I think, matches up favorably just because they're so physical and something Arizona doesn't always have to deal with. And then I think Oklahoma State's the other one where – I mean, I don't know that they were a Big 12 championship team last year. It's kind of weird. Like, they obviously went, they kind of grinded it out, had some real ugly games, had some games that they pull off, like the one against Oklahoma. But that wasn't a team that was, like, really scary.
You talk about matchups. How's Oklahoma State moving the football? It's with Ollie Gordon. You're looking at a Utah team that's top 10 nationally against the run. I don't think Ollie Gordon's a phenomenal football player. I ain't taking a shot at Ollie Gordon. Do you see Ollie Gordon going for $150 against this Utah front seven? Because I certainly don't. And then to go off what you said about Arizona, 1, they're coming to Rice-Eccles Stadium. I think number 2, Dill, Utah was number 1 in the country in time of possession. How I see that game going is, hey, Noah Fafita, T-Mac, we think you're really good football players. We ain't going to let you on the field. We are going to go 10, 12 plays, work that clock, play it our way at our stadium. I kind of like their chances in both of those games. And then you go get the bye week, which is good because obviously you want to keep this team healthy. Arizona State on the road, but probably should be a win. TCU at home should be a win. On the road at Houston should be a win. BYU getting the rivalry back, but still at home, Rice-Eccles Stadium. Feel good about that. You on the road to Colorado. You need the pass rush to exist there. Iowa State, another tricky one that's at home. And Dill, the game I'd be probably circling, and it's probably going to be to go to a Big 12 championship game. You go across the country to Orlando, Florida, the bounce house to play UCF, another team that, again, is going to want to run the football. And that's something that we probably should state. There's a lot of teams in the Big 12 that want to run the football, right? 2 of the bigger matchups that you have, UCF and Oklahoma State, they run the football top 10 in the country most. That kind of came out a little quirky. UCF's great rushing attack, KJ Jefferson, RJ Harvey. Can they run the football consistently on Utah's front seven? That's the question mark that I have.
I mean, that's such an exciting game, and I think you kind of said it. I think both teams kind of thinking they're going to be right in the mix. Utah almost surely is going to be in the mix for the Pac-12 or Big 12 title, I should say, by the end of the year. UCF, a team that brought a lot in for the portal, I think they're going to be a really tough team. If that's like a big game, I mean, that's one of the better environments all college football. That'll be a sick one.
Friday night on Fox, I already have my plans. Like that, book it. That's going to be a very exciting one. Dill, we'll close it out there. You like Kansas State in the Big 12. I like Utah. We'll see how it plays out. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.